I'm so excited and happy to introduce you to Colm Holland, the author of The Secret of the Alchemist, and someone that I've been following for a while. I'm a great Paulo Coelho fan, and I did read The Alchemist. I must have been late 90s, just after school, so it was quite um, a life changer.
So you probably hadn't even started school then, had you, Michelle?
I wish. But it's funny how you forget, it's and your book was the reminder for me to kind of go back again and remember. And I was thinking about this, and I think this is where we were going just before, is it's almost like that where Santiago gets sidetracked when he gets to when he gets to into his new adventure the first day, and he gets sidetracked by the sword. And I think we do that quite often in life. So our topic today, or why we're here, is the topic of mastery, and I think alchemy and your, should I say, journey, the past. Is it now? When did the book come out? 93. I think you got hold
The
of it.
original book, yeah, just for everyone. So the original book, those of you who've
That's
not
it.
read it, if you haven't read it, then this conversation is going to be a bit strange. So um, even though I was the original publisher of The Alchemist back in 1993, I'm still recommending it every day if you haven't read it yet. So,
Yes, and if you haven't
well,
read it, there's a gap in your education, and you need to fix
absolutely.
it.
Yes, you don't know what you're missing.
Exactly. And you then made it your life work really to get this message out, didn't you? It was a bit of a journey to get there, though.
Yes. So just a quick, I mean, I won't do a spoiler, but if you want to know the full story of where this particular journey around the concept, what I call the metaphor of the alchemist, the story of the alchemist, Santiago, the young boy who goes on this fable journey to the pyramids to find his treasure. Yeah, that began in 1993, but my own journey of because that's a metaphor for personal transformation.
Mm.
That's what most people. So if people are saying, "Why would I want to read a story about a boy going to the pyramids?" Well, it's a fable, guys, and it's actually, if you know anything about Carl Jung, then what you'll realize is that it's Carl Jung's journey of personal transformation, and where we arrive in Jungian terms at the place of individuation. So those of you who know anything about Carl Jung, that gives you the context of The Alchemist. Now, when I read The Alchemist in manuscript form, before we published it, I was on the publishing team at HarperCollins in Australia. And before we published it, I was given the manuscripts, and it was my job to decide how many copies we would print for Australia. And of course, we never printed enough. Even my wild estimates, which were most uncharacteristic for me, because I'd be threatened with the sack if I printed too many books and filled
But you actually
warehouses with books
increased it.
we
You,
couldn't
you made
sell.
a phone call and you increased the order.
Yes, I did, which is
Yeah.
most uncharacteristic of me. And I said, this is going to be a global bestseller. And it's either, depending on who you talk to, it's the third best-selling book in the world right now
Oh,
for
who took
for a
over on the
living
second?
author, an author who's still alive.
Okay.
So it's only beaten in our lifetime and in the author's lifetime by J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code.
Oh, interesting. So the Da Vinci
Those
Code just passed, because I know Alchemist was still second um, when I listened to your podcast.
Yeah,
It's My Home Vitality. You were talking about that.
yeah. Because publishers don't always declare all of the books are printed, but it's certainly, he still holds the Guinness Book of Records for the book translated into the most foreign languages, apart from his original language, which wasn't English, it was Portuguese.
Yeah.
So it's originally published in Portuguese. So English is one of the foreign languages that it's published
Interesting.
in. And so I read it in English the first time around, and I said, this is a masterpiece. It's not going to win any Nobel Prizes for literature, but it's probably going to be read by more people on the planet than any other book. And everybody said I was crazy. Paulo found out that I'd said this, and then when we met, he said, "I want, you're the first, Colm, to actually believe what I believe, which is,
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I was the first, yeah." And he said, and in gratitude for that, I've been doing a day of magic on your behalf.
I know, and the story around that, which is in the book, and I would really encourage everybody to read that, is quite special with the dinner. And I don't think you maybe appreciated it as much at the
Not at all.
time. Um,
Straight over my head. My colleague got given a diamond ring for her efforts in publicity, and I got a day of magic. And at the time, I was driving. I mean, a gold Rolex would have been really nice. Thank you very much.
but the gold Rolex might not have been around anymore, where the magic
No,
is.
or if it was still around, it wouldn't have been as valuable as what that magic turned.
Yeah.
So I was, Mr. Skeptical completely, and the more I pursued my life after I met Paulo, the more what rose up within my consciousness, in Jungian terms, what was beginning to emerge from my unconscious self was a sense of not being fully empowered.
Yeah.
That, as Carl Jung would say, that until we make the unconscious conscious, we will feel that something is in control of our lives, and we'll call it fate.
Yeah, and we'll find reasons for our unhappiness and our discontent, I think is what you call it. Yes, discontent, which is a sad state of affairs, really. I mean, I love Jung's work as well. Psychology is a passion of mine, and Jung's specifically around synchronicity and obviously the unconscious and the conscious and the dream world, and how much I mean, yeah, we have so much within us that we never really utilize. And I think that's where the mastery comes in. It's not mastery,
Yeah.
it's not an external thing, it's an internal thing. And probably also where the alchemy metaphor comes in, that transformation of taking one thing and transforming it.
Yes. So whether I've not ever had, I didn't actually have the conversation with Paulo about whether he consciously, from his own understanding of the teachings of Carl Jung,
Mm.
took that as a template for. I don't think he did. I think his genius lies at the level that he was. So Paulo Coelho was a student of alchemy.
Okay, because he
It's
also
it's in the it's in the forward to one of his
yeah,
books. So not this edition, another edition.
yeah,
There is and he says that the concept of being able to turn lead into gold, he was allured in by that,
yeah,
literally, because he thought, really, can that be done? Because that would save me having to do any work for the rest of my life. And he says foolishly, he in his youth got led astray and dangerously, or even potentially went down the track of black magic, and not good. And he came to his senses at some point and stepped back and just went back into normal life like the rest of us, doing jobs. He was a lyricist, by the way. He was a
very interesting.
pop song lyricist. He was really good writer.
Yeah,
But and then he met who he calls his master, who we don't know who his master was,
yeah,
whoever that is. The problem with Paulo is you never know whether these things actually exist or not.
yeah.
Just because he says they exist doesn't mean they exist. Um, there's
Little
a
bit of
fine line between
dimensional.
imagination and reality, and he
Yeah.
lives in that space.
Good
which is
space.
great, good for him. And he discovered that there was the principle of alchemy is in all things anyway.
Hmm.
It is the core basis. So what do we mean by that? And this is about mastery. So we are staying on topic, everyone, just in case you think we're drifting off. So Carl Jung and the story of the alchemist and what I teach is that all things are evolving. So each thing has its own journey, has its own purpose, and is all evolving into its true empowered state, whatever that might be. So whether that's the planets, the universe, the Earth itself, but because we, as far as we know, we are the only conscious beings around so far, till it's proved otherwise. We'll just settle for ourselves. Because we are conscious beings, we are the focal point of the understanding that this evolutionary process is singular. And both Jung and in the story of the alchemist, what Jung said was that the unconscious that we all share as part of our makeup as humans wants to evolve, wants to improve, wants to be wants to give well-being in modern terms of the word we use today, wants us to be the best that we can be, but in a holistic way.
Yeah.
And the Carl Jung's theory of the unconscious, which he shared with Freud, of course, all of which seems to have gone out of fashion now in modern psychology, but that's okay. I have managed to find a university that still teaches it, so I've just signed up to do a thesis.
Very interesting.
Essex University still does Jungian and post-Jungian studies.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the few in the world. And so what Jung was saying is that the unconscious is an active participant by nature. We're born with that in wanting the best for our personal existence. And one step beyond that, for those of you who read Jung, then we share that in common in this thing called the collective unconscious. And we're born with that as well. And then as we grow, as we're born and we're nurtured, we either get nurtured well or we don't get nurtured very well at all. Good things happen to us, really bad things happen to us, and we go through society and we have peer group pressure and we have other kinds of pressures. And some people suffer terrible health, some people suffer terrible abuse, depending on their circumstances. And all of these things mitigate against our well-being. So Jung would say that those things that mitigate against our well-being end up in the shadow self, the shadow part. In other words, parts that we repress. Yeah. So we prefer not to think about those things because they get in the way. And of course, what the alchemist proves, and what I teach in my book, The Secret of the Alchemist, it doesn't matter how much you repress, they are still going to get in the way. In fact, probably the more you repress them. And the irony is, no, this is even worse. It gets worse, guys. I'm going to tell you it gets better soon, but it gets worse. But the more we try and be better, that act of trying to be a better person actually works against becoming better.
I can't believe it even more. It's very true.
So why does the church in so many parts of the world, why are we shocked when we get stories of mass abuse from people who are supposedly responsible people in charge of the betterment of other people's lives? They end up doing the exact opposite, and that's because Jung would say that's not the way. That trying to be good and living by a set of good rules isn't going to solve the problem. In fact, that just leads to greater repression. And then one day the unconscious goes, or the shadow self within the unconscious says, I've had enough of this. Yeah. I'm going to do what I want, and I'm going to really cause havoc. So I was about 18, 19, 20 when my unconscious first decided to cause havoc.
Yeah.
And that was a rude awakening, as they say. And that was my big wake-up call. So I guess I was quite fortunate that I was quite young, relatively quite young compared to a lot of people I talk to have that sense of self-awareness.
Yeah, well, I think we all have it. If we look at the brain waves and the things like that,
Mm.
until we're about 7, and then we're taught to forget to connect a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
we kind of then go to, okay, well, these are the rules and I have to follow them, or these are society, or these, and then we suppress. And I think for a lot of us, at some point, the unconscious just goes, listen, this isn't going to work. We're going to make a deal here. And some people maybe listen more than others. Some people suffer, I think, for lifetimes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And the realization is often just exactly that, that trying to trying to um, you know, find the right way or do enough stuff to achieve what you think you should achieve is holding you back from mastering yourself, because that
Mm.
is really where it all starts.
Mhm.
Is when you start realizing. I mean, we can talk about what is the what is consciousness. I mean, how do you,
Mhm.
because we live in most of our behaviors are unconscious um, parts of our being.
Yep.
So, and Jung says we need to make those things conscious. So, where do we
Yep.
draw this line of, if you, it's the same with a gut feeling, isn't it? That when you feel there's something's not right, it's usually not right, and that's your
Mm.
subconscious talking to you. Um,
And when we think it's all right and it isn't all right, that's called illusion
that's right.
as well. You can't win, actually. It's the mortal state.
Yeah.
But there is a line you can walk. And so in my book, what I talk about is, so even mastery
Mm.
is a bit of a misnomer
Yeah.
in the sense that mastering yourself again conjures up, usually in Western society, conjures up notions of more self-control, of more willpower,
Yeah.
or a tighter straitjacket. So if I find that I have this weakness, whatever that weakness might be, and I hate this weakness,
Yeah.
it sort of comes over me. It makes me do what I don't want to do, and that we think mastery is having the stiff upper lip, the backbone to be able to make
Yeah.
sure that doesn't happen. It stays in its place and behaves itself. Now, in my experience, that's the opposite of what needs to happen. So, at a very young age, fortunately, I sought help from my personal shadow self that was weak and would prevent me from entering into fullness of various things in life. And what I discovered was, and I used the metaphor of the inner child, is that when I gave those feelings the imaginary embodiment of myself as a child, and was able to imagine myself at a particular age when I began to become aware of those feelings, which usually manifested themselves in being extremely angry,
Yeah.
furious
Yeah.
would be no, rage, no, dangerous, I think would be a good description. Where did they come from?
Yeah.
And that's the first question. So the self-awareness, we should all be, pursuing self-awareness every minute of the day anyway, but self-awareness where we begin to listen to the feelings and then to be asked, and then ask the feelings, say, well, where do you come from?
Yeah.
Who are you? Why? Why are you just saying, why are you so angry? Or saying to yourself, why are you so fearful?
Yeah.
Or why are you so worried? Why? Don't just be worried. Don't just be angry. Don't just be afraid. Don't just be all of those things, or whatever it might be in your case. But to then say, why? What? Who are you? Where are you? Where have you come from? And when we do that, whether we're aware of it or not, we are entering into the realm of the unconscious.
Yeah.
Now, Jung would say, and the story of Santiago says that, one of the places we can discover these things is in dreams.
Yeah.
And the story begins with a dream. And in that dream, in the Santiago's dream, is that there is something better somewhere else. That he's not living to his true potential. Essentially, he's missing out on a treasure that could really be his. And that treasure is, metaphorically, of course, the discovery of the true self.
Yeah.
So the pyramids represent the goal to be found when you discover the true self. So the journey to find the true self is not over there. Sadly, those of you who want to get out of COVID and visit Egypt, it's not where it is. One of the things you could have been doing, maybe a bit late to tell you now, but one of the things you could have been doing during COVID was to going on the best journey of all.
Yeah.
And I personally have been doing that because of lockdown. But the best journey of all is the inner journey to the unconscious, to find out and discover the things that we think are not treasure at all, the things that we think are the worst obstacles in our life.
And I would, because you talk about this in your book quite a bit, and I'm actually there right now, where I think you call it the darkness of the soul, or the dark night.
Oh, yeah, the good old dark night of the soul. Yeah.
Yes, and I think that is sometimes a deterrent for many people to find that mastery, because it's not an easy journey. I mean, going within is, there's no way to put it, but it's not easy, and it can be very messy. And I love the honesty of how you describe it as being messy, and something that I think you also mentioned. It's a lot of people don't stick it out. I think you were talking about, you had two mentors, and the one had gone up to a certain point, but then also kind of, turned around, and however we want to put it. You also, I mean, your Jung experience, and everything you're doing was really, or discovery in a little way, was really in trying to find what the magic of the alchemist was. And that journey, I think, led you to things that maybe Paulo Coelho hasn't really delved into as much.
No, not in his story. No, the Dark Night of the Soul is about one page of the entire story,
Yeah.
whereas, so the Dark Night of the Soul, those of you who don't know, so little secret, these are some of the secrets I tell in my book. Carl Jung was an avid student of alchemy.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, he had one of the best collections of alchemical books.
Okay.
And he fell into it, like a bit like I did, when you begin to read a bit of what the alchemists used to teach, going back 5,000 years to ancient Egypt, what you discover was that they are teaching exactly the same things that Carl Jung was teaching, which is to get to the road to individuation, you have to go within, and you have to visit the dark places of the shadow self.
But only as one step, because as you
First step.
yes, so there are other steps. Luckily, you don't have to get stuck there forever. It's just,
Some people do get stuck there forever, in
yeah,
which case it's, phone a friend. Don't get stuck there forever. I mean, I spend half my life helping people get unstuck.
yeah.
Not usually in the dark night. Most of the people I end up counseling have kind of done the dark night.
Okay.
Many of them have even gone to the next stage of alchemy, which is called the white phase. And in the white phase, that's where you're now holding in your hand your greatest weaknesses. So the whole purpose of the Dark Night of the Soul is not just it's not a masochistic trick. It's why we're going there is to find our greatest weakness. Our greatest weakness, because alchemy is all about transformation, our greatest weakness will become our greatest treasure. the thing we despise the most about ourselves is our most valuable asset. And that runs a contrary story to our modern Western civilized way of thinking.
Yeah.
In other words, most people believe, except now it is people, I am hearing people talking about vulnerability again, which is wonderful. If you, I don't know what you've read in the media about Prince Harry.
I try and avoid the media.
Okay, well, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of realized that what he was doing was pretty amazing. But if you've got access to Apple TV, I'm not advertising Apple TV, but it just happens to be where it is.
Okay.
Oprah Winfrey is running a series on there called The Me You Can't See,
Okay. Yeah.
and Prince Harry opens up completely about his own inner journey
Yeah.
and reveals his true vulnerability
Yeah.
totally, and isn't ashamed of it anymore. He used to be, and I really, really admire him for that. Um, Somebody, a celebrity of his status, to be so open, but then taking responsibility for it, even if it maybe means he's taking actions and making decisions that other people don't like because it's going against expectations. He said, I can't live by those expectations anymore. I have to take care of myself and my wife and my child. And that's part of his archetypal thing because of the death of Diana, of course. So it's really worth a
Yeah.
watch. And the media are either completely misrepresenting him most of the time because he's an individual who is trying to do the hero's journey
Yeah.
for sure.
I
And
don't
so,
think they see him as an individual, which is easy to then portray wrongly, because there's so many
oh yeah,
perceptions around
celebrity.
who
Yeah,
he
the media don't bother me at all.
is. Me too. I don't know why.
Harry would say, "Lucky you." It's like you can even walk down the street without people swamping you. Yeah, no, it is. It's good. But whether we're rich and famous or whether we're just us, finding the place of vulnerability in the core of our unconscious, our worst place of fear, our worst place of dread, the thing we think is our greatest weakness, that is our dread. So in the black phase, that what we're doing is we're trying to find that. We're tunneling.
Yeah.
We're mining. We're looking for diamonds. We're looking for gold. To use a South African analogy, and so that vulnerability is so once we've found the vulnerability, that's the alchemy black stage, um, and then we combustion where we burn away all of the false persona. So the black phase actually is really, it's not that terrible once you understand what's going on. It's the sense that because what's really happening is the false persona of our outward daily social existence
Yeah.
is inwardly being stripped away. So all the things that we thought made us who we are and our strengths, as we call them, and we're not going to throw those strengths away, by the way. I'm not saying you've got to, we'll just park them for a moment.
Yeah.
But the weaknesses that we prefer not to face, if we're prepared to face those, and sometimes it means going into some pretty horrific memories.
Yeah. Well, it's
And
also our perceptions of them, isn't it? So it's not necessarily, it is going into that dark night is different for everybody because we perceive things so differently. So if
yes,
we built our persona on a religious background or on a something that was, so strong, to now go the other way is very traumatic
mm.
for some, more for
Oh, absolutely,
others.
absolutely. It's much easier to go to church 3 times a week and
Yeah,
get high and try and live on the high till the next visit.
yeah,
I'm not saying that's necessarily what people do, but I'm aware that is something rather than going to church and being told what you really need to do is face your most vulnerable self and your weakness.
yeah,
And if you need God, is part of your metaphor, then guess where God is? He's right there,
yeah. But see, now
right there in the weakness.
changing that that concept of the angry man in the sky is a bit difficult for some people. So that journey
Mm.
to like, okay, well, there is a single consciousness which I am part of. It is quite traumatic for some, I think.
Yeah.
And then to move away from, okay, well, it doesn't really matter what I do, it's who I am, which, you know, draws that love to me.
So let's talk about that. So it all sounds very raw and very exposed at the moment, and I get that. And so what I teach right from the very beginning, in fact, the first quote in my book
Yeah.
um, is a reassurance that, and I say the greatest challenge we face is to truly believe at the very core of our heart, in our most weakest place, is that we are loved unconditionally for who we are, as we are, and not for what we can do. So, so if you need God, and if you have a concept of God, that you've got to win his or her or their approval, then I would say, if you've got a waste paper bin, I would jolly well recommend that you rip that concept and throw it straight in the bin and set fire to it as soon as possible,
Yeah.
because that's part of an archetypal, in Jungian terms, an archetypal projection
Yeah.
that most religions, well, not most religions, Christianity in particular, Orthodox Christianity, buys into. It's so bad that God had to sacrifice his own son. That's how bad.
But it's
Uh,
control also. I mean, it's that it's an environment where you want to control people to do what you
yeah.
think is best for them,
So
maybe.
I found Jesus at the age of 18, but not conventionally. I found Jesus in here, and I thought that was it. I thought that's what Christianity was. And then I spent a miserable 20 odd years banging heads with lots of other Christians on that very topic.
Yes.
Because I said, no, you don't have to take the Bible literally. He's here, it's. um, and then, of course, I realized that Christ is a projection of the divine self.
Yeah.
So whether it's Christ or whether it's Krishna or whoever we envisage as the divine, as a divine being, Jung would say, and I agree, that that is a projection of the divine self. So what you will also discover then, this is the miracle, this is part of the magic of alchemy, this is part of the secret of alchemy, is that when you find that most vulnerable, weakest place, you will find God if you're looking for God. You
Yeah.
will find Christ if you're looking for Christ. And Joseph Campbell, if you've never read anything of Joseph Campbell, everyone, highly recommend you read Joseph Campbell. And he would say in the mythology, this is repeated over and over and over and over again. And the hero's journey is the journey towards the place of greatest weakness. And in the story of Santiago, what's interesting is that when he finally gets to the pyramids,
Yeah.
and he believes that he's digging in the there's a carrot beetle is digging in the sand, thinking, oh, this is an omen, this is where it must be, I must dig here, and thinks he's going to unearth the treasure. He's attacked and he's beaten up by bandits within a hair's breadth of his life.
Yeah.
And you're going to go, well, hang on a minute. And there's no treasure there. It's like, so that again is a metaphor that the treasure is where the weakness is.
Yeah.
So unconditional love is what I call the Alchemist termed it the prima materia. In other words, there is a force that lives within all things, and I give that force the name unconditional love, and lots of other people do similarly. And so if we're going to hold on to a god or a religion, then we should really make sure that its primary desire for us is unconditional love. And unconditional means accepting the weakest bits.
Yeah. Well, in all circumstances,
all
unconditional or
circumstances,
no
whatever they may
conditions.
be.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that we just do what the hell we like. We go around being ruled by our weaknesses. Good luck with that. That's a pretty miserable existence. Once we've found that vulnerable place, then we go to the alchemy white stage, and the white stage is where we purify that. In other words, purify means saying, I love you, I accept you, I don't judge you, judge myself. I'm going to accept, I'm going to embrace that part of myself, but I'm not going to let it rule my life and have the power that it's had up to this point. I'm going to purify it in the sense that I'm going to transform it into a strength.
Yeah.
I'm going to call on it to give me the wisdom to live the life that I want to live. And ironically, again, this is one of the paradoxes of alchemy. Nobody would ever dream that our weakest, most vulnerable state would be full of wisdom. You think it'd be full of to give it. Well, au contraire, as they say in French, it's the opposite. My discovery was that the more I'm happy to embrace what I think is my weakest self, I discovered that's where the wisdom lies, that's where compassion lies for others, that's where empathy lies for others in a healthy sense of empathy, and where I'm in turn able to love unconditionally rather than judge others, where I'm able to own my own needs rather than project the fulfillment of those needs on somebody else. Like, I need you to give me what I need. Well, that's not going to work, because that person will never give you what you need, not 100% ever, and even the bit that they do give you won't satisfy. It will only last 5 minutes. So where are you going to find those needs? Where are those needs going to get met? They're going to get met. So Carl Jung, and I won't labor the point, but because it's a deep subject. So he says we're born with, and as men, we're born with an inner feminine called the anima, and as women, we're born with an inner masculine, which is called the animus. And most of the things that we look for in our relationships and control those relationships either for good or for bad, the place we actually need to look for them is within ourselves.
Yeah. Because
so your ideal man, Michelle, I mean, I hope you found your ideal man, but your ideal man is actually within you.
Yeah.
My ideal woman is within me, and anybody who in a transgender relationship or same gender relationship, even the same principles apply. We're all either looking for the anima or the animus that we're not finding within ourselves. So anyway, so the white stage is the purification stage, and that's illustrated, I think, as you were just saying. You've been reading the story of the alchemist to your son. That's what's going on in the crystal shop.
Yeah. But it's so the black stage is very much vulnerability, finding your own vulnerability and connecting with it, kind of making peace with it, which I think is the tricky bit, because we all want to, you have to be strong and you have to, put your mask on, and it's stripping that mask, which is the darkness of it. Yeah.
So then in the white phase, what you're doing is you're transforming that weakness by polishing it, caring for it, cleaning it. So in the crystal shop, Santiago goes in and volunteers to take over cleaning all the dirty glasses, beautiful cut glass crystal in the shop window. And of course, those of you that know anything about cut glass crystal, what is the core element that makes it so sparkly and rainbow prism-like? In that lead.
Yeah.
Beautiful metaphor, great metaphor, and whether Paulo was aware of them, yes, I'm sure he was. So the crystal shop is that, and then of course the shop becomes prosperous, which is about the self becomes richer from the wisdom that the cleansing is producing.
Yeah.
And then we've got a choice.
Yeah.
And so to get to that point, everybody, I mean, that's like, there's a life's work right there, just getting to the crystal shop and getting the glass cleaned, and that's fine. And a lot of people do stop there.
Because it's
you know what? That's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
You've come a long way. I mean, and you're probably a lot happier than you were. But the story of the alchemist says you're only halfway.
Mm.
And that's when I met Paulo Coelho in my life.
Mm.
So I encountered Paulo Coelho sort of halfway, and I literally was 40 years old,
Mm.
so very close to my birthday actually, and so that's like slightly ironic.
Yeah.
And he said to me, quite without any conversation, he said, "Colm, you just need to decide what you want in life." And I think that is when we get to that point of accepting ourselves and loving ourselves, and the unity begins to take place between the conscious and the unconscious. So there is this integration, for want of a better word, has happened. We've got that option then to make a new choice. And this is what I seem to spend most of my life doing, is helping people who've reached that stage
Okay.
where they're not quite sure or don't feel brave enough yet to make that next step forward. And quite often we need intervention. So
Yeah.
in terms of alchemy and the story of the alchemist who comes riding in on his horse as Santiago reaches the oasis being, a place of real well-being and provision and good things. He comes riding in and he challenges him afresh and says, "Are you ready to go the full way, the full journey?" And that means now stepping out and risking everything that you've gained so far. Are you prepared for that? So yeah, Paulo challenged me at the age of 40, and I knew what I wanted, but I wasn't prepared to admit what I wanted. And he said, "I've done a day's magic on your behalf." And I thought, what on earth has he done? What kind of hocus pocus has he been up to? It's like, and he was straight face. He had me under a spell at that moment. He just looked me eye, and he said, "This is what I've done, and that's my gift to you."
Yeah.
What on earth can he have done? And then the more I've studied alchemy and the more I've studied his work and his understanding, what I realize is that because of the collective unconscious, it is possible, and you won't read this in Carl Jung except possibly this might be what he was doing when people were on his couch,
Yeah.
is that we are able to bring our wisdom as an individual to the aid of another individual if the time is right.
Mhm.
In other words, the wisdom that I've discovered in my unconscious self can have an impact if both people are willing for it to happen
Yeah.
on another person. And that does involve something I haven't got time to talk about here.
Yeah.
But if you are interested, get in contact and I'll explain, because that's not really. Why are we doing all this, Michelle? This is the question. Why are we exploring these parts of the psyche? Well, it is about mastery.
Yeah.
So mastery is, in the end, it's about the union, in my experience, of the unconscious self and the conscious self coming together in a joint effort. And in alchemy terms, that's the birth of the philosopher's child,
Yes.
or the
Which
production of the philosopher's
incorporates
stone.
which incorporates all the elements again. So it is that unity of life as we know it, really, in a way. Yeah.
When we do that, something magic does happen.
Yeah.
In my experience, I cannot deny. I would love to say this is all made up, but then life takes on a completely different dimension.
Yeah.
So things called omens happen, synchronicity
Yeah.
begins to happen, and in the Alchemist story of the Alchemist, that's Santiago's new relationship with the universe, the desert around him, and the life that exists around him, the hawks, the snake behind the rock, the camel train as
Yeah.
it goes through. But what he's really saying is that we can live in a dimension where we are in unity and at one with all of nature around ourselves, whether we live in a high-rise block in Hong Kong, or whether we live in the deepest depths of Somerset, England, surrounded by sheep and cows mostly, makes no difference, because the universe can be found in a grain of sand. And to quote Will Smith, who's making the movie, by the way, of The Alchemist,
I saw that. Yes.
great, finally, hooray. Whatever we're doing is the grain of sand. So we're not all going to become authors. We're not all going to become therapists. We're not all going to become teachers. We're not all going to be, whatever it is that we do, we can become masters in that world, whatever our chosen. And I'm using the word chosen deliberately, because one of the things that The Alchemist, the book, and Carl Jung, of course, did say, is that the greatest lie that our society tells us is there's this thing called fate.
Yeah.
If you believe in fate, then I'm sorry, we're going to have to agree to disagree.
But I mean, we can almost equate fate then with synchronicity, which is not a fate situation at all. It is a coming together of possibilities. I mean, we can go quantum physics really, and say there is no fate. There's just opportunities. I mean, there are different variations of how things can play out. It's around our choices.
Yeah, choice. So we choose the life we live.
Yeah.
We're not our past.
No.
It's gone. We can let the past, we can let the resonance of the past influence the choices we make if we wish. So you can go, well, last time I did that, it was a disaster, so I'm not going to do that. Or I made that seemed to work quite well, so I'll do that again, and I'll try that again. I mean, you can do all of that, but when you really understand, when you enter that new dimension that I was talking about earlier, what you realize is that you do make your own future. Now, there are certain circumstances that surround us.
Yeah.
Those are the building blocks with which we've got to work. And some of us are blessed with sometimes more building blocks for others. But what the Alchemist teaches, in my opinion, is that you do choose we are creators of our future. We can influence and move mountains if we choose to do so.
Yeah.
And
it starts with that belief in the possibility of a choice, I think.
That we've actually got the choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that might really be a struggle for some people right now. I can hear lots of people thinking, I can read minds because I've read my own mind, which is, yeah, but if you knew how my brain works. Oh yeah, but Colm, but if you knew the relationship that I'm in, you wouldn't. And I say, well, you chose that relationship.
Yeah.
You think the way you think, and you've chosen to think that way. And I don't want to get too extreme on this. One of the things that we battle with really, and it's still a conundrum that even Carl Jung struggled with, which is that the male and the female archetypes by which we live by are really hardwired into our nature.
Yeah.
We don't choose them. I mean, we're born with these assets, and quite often we end up in relationships and situations that are governed by things we're not even conscious of at all. We're looking for a resolution of something that we were born with, and that's a whole nother story. But if you can master that level of self-awareness to be aware of the influences by which you normally do make your choices, and decide that probably isn't going to be helpful in the long term, and that you do have options, then that's the road to mastery, really.
And I think that's exactly what we'd love to do with Content College as well, is to show people that they always have a choice. We can all,
Mm.
you can always choose differently, but it starts with what do you want, and that's why I think that is the core question. You need to figure out what it is you want, because
And
otherwise,
if you're struggling, try listening to your dreams,
yeah, yeah,
because your dreams are the theater of the unconscious, and
and you already have the answers, don't you?
it will create characters. It will,
Yeah,
you've got to, all of us have got a Shakespeare within us,
yeah,
and it's called our unconscious, and our unconscious will create characters, will create situations. Some of the most lucid dreams, I mean, are just phenomenal, aren't they? If you can remember any of your most lucid dreams, of where on earth did you can actually touch the objects, you can
yeah.
have conversations. I mean, where do these people come from? You
Oh,
know,
I have many stories about that. I have a dream, a recurring dream from when I was 6. I was living in Windhoek, and I remember this dream so clearly. And the other day, we were going off a networking call, and this friend of ours, she said something about it's the red thread. And in this dream of mine from 6 years old, there was a red thread that I was following down the hallway. It is, I've been going down the rabbit hole on this one for a bit. So yeah,
we should have a chat.
you should, yes. I think.
It's trying, any recurring dream is trying to tell you something really important.
Yeah, and I mean from when I was 6, which was the other day, but it's not, it's a while ago.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
It's
phenomenal.
following me around. I need to get to the bottom of it.
So mostly our lucid dreams make no sense. They're just random, chaotic. Well, I mean, they are. The unconscious is chaotic. I mean,
Yeah.
it has no order to it, and the sooner you get used to that, the more you're able to work with it. But it constantly is trying to give us hints and wisdom and understanding of ourselves, and we can either choose to ignore that, or we can. And not everybody can remember their dreams. Not everybody is able to interpret their dreams. Some people, but it's not just dreams. There's also just memories as well. I mean, quite often when I'm working one-on-one with people, they'll suddenly just have a memory
Yeah.
of an event in childhood, and they'll go, "Oh gosh, I just remembered, this or that or the other," and suddenly everything falls into place,
Yeah.
because the unconscious is saying, I want to give you this wisdom.
Yeah.
I am your friend. I want to be part of your life, but I don't want to be a disruptive part of your life. I want to be a cooperative part of your existence, the marriage of the king and the queen, the sun and the moon in alchemy terms, and that's mastery, that union. And it doesn't make us masters of the universe in the sense of, Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker or whoever, but it does make us masters of the universe in the sense that we become more vulnerable than we've ever been. And learning to live in that vulnerability, and to be open to unconditional love,
Yeah.
means that we become more connected with the people we live with. We become more compassionate towards the world we live in. We become all of the things that we wanted to be in the first place.
Yeah.
And we
So,
thought we had to strive strive to be that person. Well, you already are that person. Trying to be that person is not the answer. You just become that
yeah.
person, and that does involve the journey. And then the final phase of alchemy, of course, is the red phase, and that's when we're manifesting
Yeah.
the results of the hard work that we've just put in. I hope it doesn't take most people as long as it took me. It took me too long. It was a long journey, and I regret that. And I think there's enough wisdom around. There wasn't the wisdom around when I was in my late teens, early 20s, 30s, and even at the age of 40. And so much more awareness is now, and
I think so.
your work,
Yeah.
your work that you guys are doing in with this, creative studio is, part of that.
Yeah.
Um,
And talking to our children and grandchildren and raising a new generation of connected people, especially in a time like this where we on screens and disconnected physically, but there is still a unconditional love that binds us all, and it's important to tap into it or to, I suppose, create the awareness around it, because it can be what's the word, a place of great discontent if we don't.
as I say to my grandson, who's a big Star Wars fan, he's 8.
Yeah,
He's probably grown out of it already. Is if you want to discover the force that Luke Skywalker found,
yeah,
and you want to use it for best, then I can tell you what it is. Oh, what is it? What is it? And I said, well, it's unconditional love.
yeah.
Not quite sure what I mean by that, but he will. One day he'll go, yeah, my grandfather used to say to me that the force is unconditional love. And it is. Nothing can stand in the way of unconditional love.
Yeah. Well, this is what the Alchemist also talks about is destiny. Our destiny is, and this is the message that I love Joshua receiving every night. It's like you have to follow your destiny. Going back to what you know isn't necessarily the best thing to do. Sometimes you have to follow the caravan into the desert.
Step off the cliff.
Step off the cliff. Yes.
Jump the ravine, and all of those other. But that's what it feels like.
Yeah, yeah. But what is the other option? The other option is to go back and be a shepherd again. And if you know already what that is, then maybe jumping off the cliff is the only other thing to do, because we are adventurers, aren't we?
Hopefully.
Yes, hopefully.
Yes, I hope so. Adventurers to the inner space of the self. And then the irony again of that, of course, the paradox of that is that the more we make that journey, the more the world opens up to us.
Yeah, yeah. And we attract the things that we need to carry on in our journey, as Santiago did, I suppose. So, Colm, how do people get hold of you? How can they connect with you? I know you've started your School of Alchemy. I watched your webinar on that. That was amazing. That's very exciting.
Yes, it is. And we've got, in the space of a month, we've got 16 or 17, 20 pupils.
That's fantastic.
People like you, Michelle,
Yeah.
and some wonderful people.
Yeah.
And it's a great pleasure to share time with them. But yeah, that's a school online. It's moving at your own pace. It's like a distance learning, and it comes with what we're calling a certificate of alchemy transformation.
Yeah.
Which basically means that you've read 5 modules, I think it is, 25 lessons, where we explore the interrelationship of Carl Jung's theories, the story of the alchemist, and explore our own experiences. So the idea of the lessons is that in the end, they're experiential.
Yeah.
You take the things, the principles that are in the original story of the alchemist, in the teachings of Carl Jung, and apply them to your life. And then I've already got people who are now applying that to their work.
Yeah.
There's a couple of Reiki teachers, healers, who are applying alchemical principles to their work with people. And then it leads on to the thing that I call the Alchemy Practitioner's Diploma, where in a small group we actually work on honing those skills together, where I teach people how I work by, with people's permission, enter into their unconscious selves to give them that alchemical boost of unconditional love, that because we've all got that place, I believe, in our unconscious that is our own blind spot, for want of a better word. And if somebody else can shine a light on that blind spot, great. Paulo Coelho did it for me, which was around success. And after he did that Days of Magic, I went on and I founded the largest and most successful at the time independent advertising agency in Australia.
Yeah.
Would that have happened had I not met Paulo? Probably not.
No.
Because I didn't have the courage to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And you continuing that work, which is amazing. Thank you so much, Colm. I'll add the links and everything to all the work.
Oh, sorry, to get hold of me, you did ask me how to get hold of me. So colmholland.com, COLMHOLLAND.com. There's a contact form there. That's the easiest way to get in touch with me.
And you also have a podcast.
Yes, which it's been on pause. I'm just about to relaunch it. I'm actually by the end of July, I'm going to do a weekly series called the Alchemist Lectures.
Okay.
Where I'm going to take the plot of The Alchemist and explain it from a Jungian perspective.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So essentially saying this is why it resonates.
Yeah.
Why does this simple story resonate with literally over 100 million people globally? Well, that's because we're all connected, and he totally tapped into the collective unconscious.
Which he possibly used alchemy to do, I believe.
You could say that, Michelle. I couldn't possibly comment. That would be giving too many secrets away.
It was such a pleasure meeting you, Colm.
You too, Michelle. Thank you so much.
You again.
And every blessing for your work too.
Thank you. You too. Will be following you closely.